Hey guys, this is Andy Montgomery. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about my thought process when I'm fishing docks, how I select the size of the jig I'm going to use, how I select trailers, just a lot. I'm just going to talk about the process I go through. Nothing's an exact science in fishing, so but this is kind of the process that I use to figure out where to start, a good starting point. 90% of the time I'm going to use a 1/2 ounce jig. The reason for that, a half is actually going to skip better than a 3/8 is kind of contradiction to what people think. A half is actually going to skip further, so you're going to create a lot more momentum with a half, which is going to carry it further. The friction of the water is not going to be able to stop it as fast. So any situation I can get away with skipping a 1/2 ounce jig, that's what I'm going to do. The one exception to that is sometimes up north in super shallow water, I'm going to use a 3/8. Also, if it's kind of a mushy type bottom where I think the fish are suspended and I don't want the bait to get to the bottom as fast, give them a better chance to get the bait before it gets down in that mushy stuff, then I'm going to use a 3/8. But 90% of the time, I'm going to use a half. It's going to skip further. It's going to get the same amount of bites as a 3/8 does. It's just a more efficient way for me to fish. Again, the main exception is when I'm fishing super shallow docks. So again, the jig that I use is the Strike King skipping jig. I had a lot to do with the design of this bait. And this one I actually took the skirt off so you can see a little better about what makes this jig different. You know, when you think of a skipping jig, probably the first thing you think of is how well it skips. It's probably the least important thing. Most jigs will skip, most head shapes will skip. We did design this one flat, so it will skip good. But what separates this jig is the hook and the keeper. It's the perfect setup. The hook, what I wanted was a hook that was strong enough that it won't bend when I'm skipping. So I'm skipping this thing slam out of sight. I'm always hitting stuff that I can't see. And I can't afford for that bait to hit something and the hook bend down, and it's going to cause me to miss a fish. I don't have time to check the hook every time I hear my bait hit something to see if it bent down. So I want a strong enough hook that it won't bend when I hit something under a dock. But I couldn't have too big a diameter that I had to use braid to get a hook in the fish. So this is the perfect diameter hook that it doesn't bend. You really got to smack something to get this hook to bend down, and it's not too thick that I use fluorocarbon. I use fluorocarbon pretty much all the time when I'm skipping. So the perfect diameter hook is really important. It's the perfect length. It don't hang up too much, and it gets them, dude. This hook absolutely gets them. When you hook one, I know for the most part he's done unless I just happen to skin hook him or something. But I've been super impressed with how good this hook hooks them. The screw lock keeper, you know, when I'm skipping, a lot of times I had to glue the bait on there. I wanted something I could put on there really fast and not have to carry super glue. Super glue's aggravating for sure. So I don't have to carry super glue. I can screw it up on there. The skirt collar keeper, I growed up fishing hand-tied jigs, so I wanted something that would hold the collared skirt in place. So there's no play. It's a perfect fit. It's not going to slide up and down, and it's going to, you know, hold the skirt in place. So the little small details of this jig is what separates it. It's got the perfect hook. It's got the permanent super glue keeper. You know, you don't have to super glue it. It's got the right collar. So it's just the perfect setup for skipping. Let's see, trailer wise, 90% of the time I use a Strike King Rage Bug trailer. It skips really good. As you can see, I've already got one rigged here. It just skips good. It's almost like a rock, so it's flat. It's gonna slide over the water really easy, and it's just they bite it too. That's really a key. They really bite it. This is what I use 90% of the time. The only exception is when it's super cold. Sometimes I use just the old traditional style chunk that doesn't have a lot of action, because this Rage Bug does have a tremendous amount of action, which is good. But sometimes in really cold situations, then I'll still use the standard chunk. But this is one rig perfect. I'm actually gonna take this off and show you how I rig the Rage Bug. As you can see, it's pretty hard to get off because the keeper, it's not gonna come off just in a normal fishing situation. A fish is gonna have to really bite and chew on this area here to get it to come off. So got that one off. We're gonna get another one out and go through the process on how I rig the rage bug. The cool thing about the rage packaging is, as you can see, it's packaged in a clamshell. I wanted to call it an eggshell, but a clamshell. So every bait is perfect. As you can see, they are perfect. You know, when you buy a lot of packs of baits and you really have to dig through them to find one that the tail's not messed up. So this packaging is really key. You know, when you pay $4 or $5 or whatever for this, you know that you're getting exactly whatever it says on the package. Depending on what it is, I think this is a 7-pack. You're getting 7 good baits. It's not like you're buying a pack of 7 and hoping you get 1 or 2 good baits. So that's a cool deal. I'm actually going, let's rig this one on the one without the skirt just to show, you'll be able to see it a little better without the skirt. So what I do is I bite off about 3 or 4 rings like that. That's gonna shorten it up and give it a little smaller profile. This is a cool little trick. It's really hard for me to be perfect. I've tried to rig baits perfect to where it comes out. You want this to be super straight. You don't want it to be like that or trimmed up. You want it to be straight, so the jig will fall straight. It'll do what it needs to do, and it'll actually skip better. If it's bent back, it's not gonna skip good. So what I do is I purposely go a little further because it's easier for me to correct it than to try and get it perfect every time. So I know perfect would be coming out the 2nd or 3rd rib. I'm always gonna go to the last rib like that. See that? I come out the last rib, push it on there, and this is super simple. This is the screw lock. Push it as far as you can, and then you just twist. It takes about 3 twists. You don't, and that's it. It's on there. It's locked in place, ready to go. All right, now check this out. See how it's rigged up? That's what I just told you not to do, but I did that on purpose because this is a super easy way to correct it and get it perfect. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my 2 fingers on both sides of the hook, like that right there. I'm gonna put my thumb right at the base of the hook, like that. And then I'm able to split it. I push with my thumb, pull down with my other 2 fingers, and I'm able to split it perfectly to where it's perfectly straight. That needs to split a little more. Now, it is perfectly straight. All right, now, why do you do it like that? If you just tried to split it, tried to pull it down, chances are you're gonna tear it at an angle, one way or the other. It's gonna cause the bait to fall crooked, it's gonna cause the bait to twist. But if you do that little trick there where you put both fingers on each side of the hook, put your thumb at the base of the hook and split it like there, it'll make it split perfectly straight up the bait. That's a neat little trick that I kind of learned on my own somehow or another, that you can use on any bait, whether you're rigging it on a bladed jig, any type of trailer situation where you're threading it up. Go a little bit further, put the 2 fingers on the side, thumb at the base of the hook, and then you can get that bait straight, which is really important. That's pretty cool there, showing it. That's the first time I've ever showed it without the skirt. I'm gonna have to start doing that some more. So you can see that really good. The skirt wise, when I get it out of the pack, these are mass produced jigs, so the skirt's not gonna be perfect coming out of the pack, but it's pretty simple. I just kind of pull it around, get it all prettied up, and I cut it right behind the hook shank. As you can see, it's right behind the hook shank. That gives me that smaller profile. The smaller profile is gonna skip a little better, and it's gonna get a few more bites too, and big fish will still bite the small profile. So that's the way I trim the skirt. Color situations, I keep it pretty simple. This is blue cross, probably my #1 color, one of my favorite colors by far. And I use a black and blue too. I don't like a lot of bright blue in my jig, so I actually have pulled out the blue strands in here, and it's just a black blue flake jig. And I'll rig that with the, either the blue bug, which is kind of a sapphire blue raised bug, or the black and blue raised bug. These are two simple colors that'll catch them anywhere in the country. Black and blue can be good in dirty water situations, even though I still like the blue crawl in dirty water situations. But where black and blue seems to shine is up north. For some reason, them fish really like the black and blue. Or tidal fisheries, you know, the marshy type fisheries, like Winyah Bay, the tidal type black water is what I call it, where you got that real dark water, still clear where you can see down in the water, you know, a foot or 2 foot when you put your bait in it, but it's got that real black tannic look. A black and blue always seems to shine in them situations. The blue crawl color will imitate a crawdad well, but it'll also imitate a brim really well. So if I want to swim this around a dock, you know, I can imitate a brim good, or I can fish it on the bottom and imitate a crawdad. Why do I like skipping so much? Well, it's all about shade. Fish love shade, obviously. Any fish loves shade. So you see a lot of brim hanging out in shade. You see a lot of you catch a lot of bass in shade, and it's all a combination. The fish are going to be around the bait. Bait hangs around the shade. Boards could be brim, crawdads. Fish just love shade. So this technique allows me to get in them shady spots where I know it's a high percentage place to catch a fish. Types of docks, that varies all over the country. You know, where I live, we have a lot of pole docks that come out and then have a walkway that actually has a float. So I got the best of both worlds. I got poles and floats. A lot of these lakes we go to will be strictly poles. A lot of these lakes, like the Ozark lakes and stuff we go to that fluctuate a lot, will be all cable driven docks. All right, so picking out a particular dock to fish really depends on what part of the country you're in, you know, what region you're in. They get on all different types of docks. You know, it's kind of what your area has to offer. Up north, they roll the docks in and roll them out, you know, when the ice comes in. So there's a lot of metal docks up there, even though they're really low to the water, so they act like, you know, they throw a lot of shade. So they're really similar to floating docks, even though they're pole docks. So picking out the certain dock, again, it's just kind of where you're from. They get on docks all over the country for sure, and it's just a great way to catch fish. So, and it doesn't have to be docks. You know, when I talk, docks is the obvious thing when we start talking about shade, but it don't have to be a dock. You know, a cypress tree throws out a lot of shade. Some overhanging willow trees throw out a lot of shade, and any of these places is going to be good for the skip technique. Even a lay down, you know, I skip a lot of baits around laydowns when you got limbs going everywhere, and you got some hanging out of the water, where to get to the base of that tree, the trunk was going to throw most of the shade. Sometimes you have to skip it under some of the branches hanging over. So just skipping in shade is a great way to catch bass. It's a technique that takes a lot of practice, so you know, you really have to get out there and not get frustrated. But a good start is to get some Strike King skipping jigs, put the Rage Bug trailer on there, because it skips incredibly well, and plus they bite it, which is a good deal. And go fishing, man. It's a great way to learn. Again, you know, I'm gonna go back and reiterate something, that a 1/2 ounce will skip further than a 3/8. It actually skip better. It's kind of contrary to what people think. I've seen a lot of guys say I skip a 1/4 ounce because it skips better. Well, theoretically, you'd think a lighter bait would skip across the water better, but it doesn't. It's all about friction. Skipping's all about friction, and the friction of the water hitting the bait is going to stop a lighter bait a whole lot faster than it's going to stop a heavier bait, just because of the momentum that the 1/2 ounce will create. So I did a lot of rambling. There's a lot of information in there. I tried to pour out everything that I had in my mind at the time, and I hope y'all guys learned something. If you just learn one little trick in this whole deal, it's going to be good. This is a great technique. It's a fun technique. It's a technique that I've said that you can feel like you won whether you catch one or not. If you make a skip and it goes way back into a dark hole, you know, you get that sense that you accomplished something whether you catch a bass or not. And then when you start catching them, it's even better. You know, you kind of the ice cream on top of the pie. You know what I mean? I mean, we can get a brownie and it's all good. We love that brownie, but when you put the ice cream on top of it, it just sets it off, puts it over the top. Skipping's the same way. skipping, it's just like the brownie. You feel great, but when you put the ice cream, when you actually catch one, it's the total package. Makes you feel really good. So try these, do a lot of practicing, and I think it'll help you. I know it'll help you catch more fish going forward.